Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Ponzio. Tonight for homework, you guys are going to be looking at your Thoughtshots entry in your writing notebooks for homework. First, let's review the types of thought shots. The first type of thought shot is a flashback. If a character is having a flashback, that means that that character is thinking back about something that has already happened. An example is, he remembered the first time he saw snow. So that indicates to you that that character is having a flashback to something that already happened. The second type of thought shot is a flash ahead or a flash forward. If you are thinking about including a flash forward in your writing, then one of your characters would be thinking about something that is going to happen or might happen in the future. Writers often use flash aheads when a character is trying to make a decision. So if they're wondering about two different options, then they might be thinking ahead about what the outcome of those options might be. So our example here is she thought about going to the new school. What would it be like? Would she have friends? So in that case, that character is thinking ahead in the future about what something will be like. The last type of thought shot is internal dialogue. If you are having internal dialogue in your story, that means that one of your characters is thinking about what is happening at that moment. We're talking present tense. So an example that they have here is he thought about what the teacher had just said. His mind raced, but he didn't know the answer. Why did she call on him? So if your character is having that type of internal dialogue, that means that they are having a thought about what is happening right at that very moment. So let's take a look at my thought shots entry here. If we remember back to class, you will recall that I told you that you needed to have pre-writing in the space around or near your story. So you'll notice that I have brainstorming up in this area above where I start writing on the lines. And in that brainstorming area, I made notes about what I thought I was going to talk about as a flashback, what I kind of thought I might do for a flash ahead, and then what my internal dialogue might be, what I was going to talk about with myself right as what is happening right in that moment. So those three things must be covered in your pre-writing. If you don't have those, I want you to look at your own writing and I want you to add it in. Now let's take a look at my story. My story reads, "My eyes peeped through our blinds as the snowflakes swirled through the gray sky. This is amazing, I thought. We never get snow in Dallas." So right here, I already have some type of thought shot. In that case, I'm talking to myself about something that is happening right now in the present in my story. So even though as a writer, I'm writing about a past event, for my character me, the version of me that's a character, it's happening in the present tense. So that's why this would be an example of internal dialogue. I walked through my empty house and I turned on our gas fireplace. I smiled at the idea of how cozy I feel with snow falling outside and a warm fire roaring inside. This whole thing that I just underlined there is another example of internal dialogue. The fact that I mentioned that this is an idea means that I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the fact that I feel cozy with snow falling outside and a warm fire roaring inside. And that is something that's happening in the present for me as a character. As we scroll down in my story, you will notice that at the very bottom of my first page up here, I start to think back into the past. My story says, "My thoughts traveled back to my childhood home in Medfield, Massachusetts. I have always loved snow and the magic it holds. As a kid, I loved to watch the flakes silently descend onto the trees in my backyard. One of my favorite memories of Massachusetts is driving down my tree-lined street, gazing in awe at the thick coating of white that covered the forest, making the land look like a giant wedding cake." For that whole section, I am going to underline it, and you would highlight it, because this is a whole section about me reflecting back, which would mean that this one is an example of a flashback, every sentence in this paragraph. As we continue on in my story, you'll notice that I have another flashback right here. I say, once I moved to Dallas, these magical days were few and far between. When they did come, however, they felt even more special. So that's another flashback because to my character, I am thinking back to previous snowfalls in Dallas. So that would be in the past for me as a character. Now, if you look down further, you'll notice, okay, I've had some internal dialogue and I've had some flashbacks, but what about flash aheads? Well, right after that sentence, my story reads, "How much snow are we going to get this time?" I wondered. "Will we have school tomorrow?" So there, I'm wondering about something that's going to happen in the future for me as a character. I don't know how much snow is going to fall. The snow is still falling. And I'm not sure whether or not they're going to cancel school because that decision hasn't been made yet at the time of the story. So that is a great example of a flash ahead or a flash forward. At the very end, you'll see that I say, "I imagined all the stores that would close in a few hours." There's another flash ahead because I'm thinking ahead of time. You probably noticed in my story that I had at least one flash ahead, one flashback, and one example of internal dialogue. So that is what I expect of you guys. I hope that some of you have even more than that, but your stories where you worked on Thoughtshots should have at least one example of each. Here's what I want you to do for homework. I want everybody to take a green highlighter, since today was D-Day, and I want you to go back in your story and highlight every example of those thought shots in green that you included in your story. I want you, after you've done that, to make sure that you have at least 3 in total. 1 internal dialogue, 1 flash forward, and 1 flash back. If you have those 3, then you are all set and your homework is done. If you find that after you've gone through and highlighted those things that you do not have an example of each of the 3 different types of thought shots, then now is your opportunity to go back into your writing and operate on your story. You need to make sure that you do operations, you insert your examples so that tomorrow you can come in to class and point out to me the 3 spots that you had thought shots in your story. All right, everybody, good luck, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Our password for tonight that I want everybody to write on their writer's notebook somewhere is playground, because I'm sitting here in my classroom and I'm looking out at the playground. So I want everybody to write that somewhere in their thought shot entry to show me tomorrow. I hope everybody has a fabulous evening, and I will see you tomorrow.